All right, I'm just going to talk a little bit about square roots in this video because it's part of this week's assignment. So if you are in square roots, let's go back here. So let's look at some simple ones, okay? So square root of 4, okay? What that's asking you is what number times itself. So what number times itself is 4? Well, 2 is, right? So 2 times 2, okay? So we're going to say that 2 is the square root of 4. If we wanted to go to the next perfect square, okay, square root of 9, what number times itself is 9? Yeah, it's 3, so we're going to do that, okay? And you can keep on going. You can kind of go the other way too and say, hey, 4 is the square root of what number? Well, it's the square root of 16, okay? And you can kind of keep that on going. We can say that 5 is the square root of 25. Oops, let me erase that. 6 is the square root of 36, and so on, okay? All of these numbers here, okay, we call those perfect squares. Okay, let's see if I can handwrite that. Perfect squares. And the reason we call them that, look at my beautiful handwriting, the reason we call them that is because they like square root super perfectly. Most of the time, you're not going to get perfect squares, okay? So let's look at this next page here. On here I put some not perfect squares, so look at square root of 5. If we go back to this, square root of 5 is not in here, right? But we can figure out what it's between. So it's bigger than 4, but it's smaller than 9. So somewhere in here, okay, we have the square root of 5. It's between 2 and 3, okay? So what we can do for this is we can say it's between the number 2 and the number 3, because the number 2 is the square root of 4, the number 3 is the square root of 9, and the square root of 5 is in between those two square roots. Therefore, it's between those two whole numbers. Sometimes it's even going to ask you which one it's closer to. So for this one, you can basically look at, like, if you pretend like the square roots aren't there, okay, square root of 5 is between these two, but like 5 is much closer to square root of 4 than it is to square root of 9. So you could say that the square root of 5 is approximately this wavy equal sign 2. But it's a bit bigger, so if you want to be more precise, you could say 2.1, 2.2, something like that. Let's go square root of 30 here. Let's go back to our screen over here. Square root of 30, where does it go in between? Okay, bigger than 9, bigger than 16, bigger than 25, but smaller than 36. So square root of 30, okay, goes between these two. Oops, of course, someone's calling me. We go to that next one here. And so square root of 30, sorry, I'll go back here real quick. Square root of 30 is going to be between square root of 25 and square root of 36, which means it's between the numbers 5 and the number 6. Okay, so we go back here and we can say it is between 5 and 6. Now, which one is it closer to? Okay, 5 is the square root of 25. Ugh, it's hard to write on these bad boys. 5 is the square root of 25, and 6 is the square root of 36. So 30, is that closer to 25, or is it closer to 36? Well, for this one, you might have to do a little bit of subtraction. So how far is 30 from 25? It is 5 units. How far is 30 from 36? It is, that's an arrow. Let's color that in. How far is 30 from 36? It is 6 units away. Okay, so then we would say it's closer to 5, but it's super in between. So we could say that square root of 30 is approximately 5 point, if I'm guessing here, I would say 5.4 or 5.5. So I'm going to go ahead and say 5.4 to indicate that it's a little bit closer to 25. But again, this is an estimation. If I were to put in my calculator, I could get an exact number, but for this, it's just an estimation. So that's a quick little example of some square roots. On the next slide, you're going to have some practice problems, so I'll let you get to those.